it seems to be a lot. It seems to be a lot of talk about the greatest and the GOAT. A lot of folks want to know who is really actually the GOAT, whether it's LeBron, Michael Jordan, some are even saying Kobe. This is a never-ending conversation. And it made its way this far that now we still have to respect the fact that people are playing to keep up their weight and move to a certain bar, a certain level of play to be noticed and respected. Don Boy 718, our job is to keep it raw and direct for you. You tell us what you might want to hear or what you might want to talk about, we'll bring that to you because we know that it's a lot of great sports out here to be played. I don't know if many of you have played sports. Most of you have. Most of us have growing up, right? They give it to us in PE, in physical education, or some type of form. Go to the basketball court, you outside, your parents take you. And so we want to be the best. We learn to be competitive early on. So that competitive nature is something that kind of grows with us. Last night, there was a foul on Zion Williamson that caused a big stir. A lot of players were not happy about it during that Miami Heat and New Orleans Pelicans game because if you know, Jimmy Butler, this guy, he was having himself a game last night. I was watching some of it, but I didn't watch the whole game. I just know that Jimmy Butler, when he's on that court, Tyler Hero and these dudes, there's no joke. It's no joke because this man, he's led his team to the conference finals and to other parts of, the playoffs to win. But last night, this whole brawl between Miami and New Orleans, when it was like 11 and a half minutes, 11 minutes, 19 seconds to be specific, down in, I think they were playing in New Orleans. And this was in the fourth quarter. Sometimes players, we know you want to back up your teammate. There's nothing wrong with supporting your teammate because, like I said, sports are very competitive. Take someone like Zion Williamson, who was highly anticipated to work his way into the class of great ones eventually because he had all of the great height. They made Zion the great white height at one time, right? Not the great white height, but he's a brother. But you see what Zion can do. He did not come in playing the way that people expected him to be. They would kept saying that he was going to be the next LeBron, which means that if he was the next LeBron, he'd be slated to be in the conversation of the GOAT soon enough. But you look at his rough start, his unhealthiness, his injuries, all the stuff that's been lagging and causing New Orleans to fall back. And this is where they picked up pieces like Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum. They started building around this man and making this organization better because they used to be respectable. They used to be cool. When the New Orleans Pelicans first started, for those of you that don't know, their history is they was the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte Hornets, they moved out there. They became, New Orleans Hornets, different things. They changed the name, this and that. And they had Anthony Davis at one time, AD. AD was putting up big numbers before he came to the Lakers. He was having 40 and 50-point games. Fast forward, things changed. AD go to the Lakers. The Pelicans, they make some moves, get Zion Williamson early in the draft. Zion Williamson, many was expecting to be the man, to do this and that, to be really great. And he's not met them expectations all the way. He started out, he came in, he broke the shoe when he was over there playing ball in college and came out. We know how that whole thing went at UConn. And now in the NBA. This is his resurrection season. I'm pretty sure that a lot of these new guys and this talent that they have, they want to advance further. They want a lot of recognition. And the reason why I bring up the situation about Zion and the fight that he had last night, and there were some ejections also, is because this man, he's been known to have a lot of attention on him. And with the GOAT conversation, he's one of the guys that he came into this league with more hype than a Ja Morant, Anthony Edwards, SGA, Chet Holmgren. This guy, Zion Williamson, he probably had more hype than Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama might have been the closest name to the hypeness or the overexposure of promotion to be a future great or potential GOAT at some point in life. So when you have these young players come in, they have standards to keep up. And it takes work ethic. This is one of the reasons why when it comes to that GOAT conversation, LeBron is forever there. Because now it's like you sell the people something, you're promoting a product or you're promoting a brand that is not solidified. We know for sure when we see magic on the court or magic happening, that's what's taking place. But if we don't see production and execution, how do we know that these guys are really out there handling their business? Because I'll tell you one thing for sure, Zion Williamson, the way he's been looked at and his brand has been brought down a bit, I don't see him ever being in the class of a Kobe Bryant, a LeBron James, and definitely not Michael Jordan. Kevin Durant would be supposedly, or folks think, the next guy to be cut of that cloth. But I don't think that Kevin Durant is so much of all that guy. He's really great, but his consistency, he balls. But here's the thing now, we give credit to dudes that go out there and ball, but they don't execute or bring home the championship. They don't bring home the kill. Jordan and Pippen, when he had his partner, he was like, come on, let's go. We're going to make the rest of the team ball with us, or we're going to be consistent because we're the leaders of this team. Do more than just meet the hype or take the promotion that they're going to give you. So when this brawl was happening last night, Zion Williamson and, these guys are at home, losing to the Miami Heat by 11. Mind you, Jimmy Butler, who doesn't get a lot of credit or a lot of hype, is in there dogging these dudes because he's a baller. Some of them call him, Jimmy Jordan. The folks joke, he looks just like Michael Jordan, and some folks think he's Michael Jordan's son subliminally. But Jimmy Butler does what he do. So I say all of this to you because what we expect and what we get are two different things. That was pretty big. There was a lot of things happening there last night during that ejection. And people were separated with penalties and different types of punishment because some folks did more than others on the court. There was some swinging, some banging, and just the fact of just knowing that Jimmy Butler himself was among four people that was ejected last night during the game. This came down to Najee Marshall, Kevin Love, and Jimmy Butler. Okay. Also, Thomas Bryant and Jose Alvarado. Thomas Bryant, Marshall, and Jose Alvarado, along with Jimmy Butler, were ejected from the game. All this happened after Zion Williamson, coincidentally, on defense, steals the ball from a Miami Heat player, and things go south. The foul happens. It gets a little crazy down there in New Orleans. Tempers are flaring. It's a lot going on. Jimmy Butler, he's never been mentioned as someone that could be one of the GOATs or work himself into that conversation. When we fast forward now, the new conversation for this week, the respect that was given on the names of three people that were solidified, I guess, by LeBron James and other media outlets that were, weighed upon, because these folks are the future. We're gonna start like this. We're gonna go with SGA, Anthony Edwards, and you already know Tyrese Halliburton. These guys are gonna be real sick. This is the future. And mainly SGA and Anthony Edwards. These guys, if you have not seen them play, you have been missing a whole lot of great NBA action. These guys are young. These guys are talented. They playing maturely. They ready to go. They ready to go. They have a killer instinct. And it's developing more and more thorough. Anthony Edwards, I'm watching him last night do his thing in Minnesota. As they go on, they had the game last night. Heavily televised. You don't see a whole lot of Timberwolves games getting promoted on national channels the way so many other teams that are in bigger markets get. Because Minnesota's not the biggest market, like a New York or LA or Chicago or Boston or something like that. So we know that with the likes of Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards, these guys are putting up numbers. With the numbers that Karl Anthony Towns are putting up, kind of makes you think. The man said that he was out to be one of the best big men in the game. And he's been balling this year. Who could take that away from him? Cat has been on his game. I'm not saying that he's going to eventually be one of the GOATs when he get done. You have to chime in on championship rings to get there. Championship rings and accomplishments. They say, well, Charles Barkley, he's on the list. Like, he's been doing this thing back then. Well, when folks say the greatest of all time, they're talking about who was running the era, who had an era. That's a great way to narrow it down. Who had an era? Jordan had an era. Kobe had an era. LeBron James had an era. He's still moving during other folks' era right now. Kevin Durant somewhat had an era. You know what I mean? And it goes on. Now you have the Joker and Giannis. The game has gone back to big men, to being a big man's game, because you have solidified brothers in there and dudes that's ready to bring back the banging and clashing. Although the league is still fixed on shooting these threes, it's hard to say if there's one of the future GOATs that's just there. Giannis has potential playing with Damian Lillard and having a new coach, Doc Rivers, there. It would be too easy to say, I see 2 more championships in this man's future and a lot more accolades or, accomplishments. Jalen Brunson doing this thing on the New York Knicks. But when we talk about teams that are going to go far, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, they're at that point now where it's not too impressive, where we know what they're going to do, or we have expectations. We know that they're great. Klay Thompson hasn't been playing the most great lately. He had a real awesome game early in the week. Then he had 4 points a couple days ago, 2 nights ago. These guys have 4 championship rings. Steph Curry, he's the next guy on the list. I would say automatically, along with after LeBron, you got to put Curry in there. This guy has 4 chips, and he definitely played his part earning those. Okay, even though Kevin Durant went over there, and this man, he was able to pick up 2 of those rings and help Draymond be able to hoist that banner again. You know, these guys have 4 rings. Kevin Durant has 2. And to really be in that GOAT conversation at the end of the day, I think it takes more. You have to drive teams, stay committed, stay loyal, play hard, and definitely be driven. Definitely be driven. Now, we see that the Miami Heat, they rebuild. These guys are driven. They've been back up to that championship, but they wasn't going to win. They went hard. They didn't get over that hump because they moved with what they have. It's not much that they need to really fix the system or to really get over to the other side of town, which is winning sensation. They had their time when Dwayne Wade and LeBron and Chris Bosh was there. You know, they had one of the GOATs. A future GOAT is a guy to go in there and make a difference, and you can see the promise there. Which is why SGA and Anthony Edwards, those two, if in 10 years, the both of those two doesn't have at least a championship or 2 championships between them, this would be crazy because nobody is seeing that right now. These guys are consistent. They come out to play every night. And De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox over in Sacramento, another one. I know I said Tyrese Halliburton earlier, but do not sleep on De'Aaron Fox. This man, he knows how to pull it. He knows how to get in there and become real active to help his team win. At the end of the day, I think that this is special. Very special thing to do. Is for these teams to stick together, to keep developing, to get better. They get lucky. Victor Wembanyama, with his height that he's receiving, you would want to have him in that class of future GOATs. He has a lot of hype. He hasn't been disappointing. I'm going to tell you one thing. One thing about Victor Wembanyama, this man has not been disappointing in his hype and introduction of following up during his first year, the way Zion Williamson was. I would say this man is obviously, definitely Rookie of the Year. His only real competition is coming from players like Chet Holmgren. Dude in there doing what he's supposed to do. Because the league is returning to a big man's game. You have folks around the league from Joel Embiid to Giannis Antetokounmpo to Nikola Jokic. You know, the list goes on. Kevin Durant's not a small man. Mention him. I mean, pause. Karl Anthony Towns. You got people out here that's just putting in the work. The Warriors, they've been getting by with a 6'8" center in Draymond Green because of his physicality. Domantas Sabonis over in Sacramento. Another one balling. Anthony Davis out in LA. The league is returning back to some kind of prosperity in a system where people are going out here and doing what they got to do. They playing hard. Shout out to everybody that's listening, checking us out this morning, because you know what it is. Don Boy 718, we in the building. From Brooklyn all the way to the world. Tell everybody that check us out, hit us up, social media platforms. from Facebook to TikTok to YouTube. Show love. Newtown Radio. We're gonna take a little break. Just get back into it. And just to wrap up this GOAT talk before I go on a break, I believe that there's a lot of emphasis put on this now, and this is the new era of elevated skills and people that can go out here and make big differences. So you can expect to see why, you know, the last few years, I want to say the last 4 years, consistently, there's been GOAT talk all the time since the pandemic. It's given people a lot more time to think about valuableness and greatness. I'm just going to leave it at that. However, the GOAT comes along and they have an era. This is how you know that they're a GOAT. All GOATs have an era where they were the most dominant or most special with doing what they do. Some even say in baseball, Derek Jeter was a GOAT. So I won't take that away. But the GOAT talks can keep on going on and on. Don Boy 718, y'all. Yeah. I've been in searchlight, high school, like searchlight.